welcome back. Today we're going to start talking about imperialism, which comes around basically as a direct result of all the things we just talked about. Italy and Germany are finally going to be countries, which contributes to this. And also we have the end of slavery plus the Industrial Revolution, and all the effects of that, one of which was the end of slavery. So first, let's look at what imperialism is. So definition is right there for you. When a nation takes control over a weaker country or territory, economically and or politically, in order to benefit the stronger nation. So basically when somebody takes over another country for their own benefit. So that can be strategic, or it can be something to do with money. Now, there are three types of imperialism you are supposed to know about for this class. The first one is a colony. You can see the definition is right there. It's a country or territory governed or ruled by a foreign country. So for us, best example, Jamestown was a colony started by the English here. So the people that lived here were ruled by an English governor who was sent over, and he reported directly back to the king. An example in the unit we're going to study here is Somaliland in East Africa. So that's going to be a French colony. The French are going to rule it. The people that live there do not have any control. The French decide what happens. Okay, so the second category you're supposed to know is a protectorate. So, in a protectorate, you have your own government, but the foreign country, the invading country, still has control. So, your government is allowed to make decisions as long as they go along with what the foreign country wants. So usually, these are set up if there's some kind of, if they don't really need the land, they just want a place where they can stop, maybe have their ships refuel, or if they want to use it mostly for economic reasons. So an example that we're going to learn about during Africa is Britain has a protectorate where the Niger River comes out into the ocean. And we're going to see other examples as well later. A third form of imperialism, which you need to list there on your paper, is sphere of influence. So that's an area, this is purely economic, so it's an area where the foreign country takes control, and they are the only ones that can buy or sell things there. So China's a great example of this, which we will look at. And the one that the book gives you is Liberia. The United States created the country of Liberia, and so then they thought, hey, we should get to benefit economically from creation of this country. So, the reasons all of this starts, and we have been talking a little bit about this before. After the Industrial Revolution, they have a way to produce goods way faster than any time in history, so they need more goods. So they're going to need new places to get things from. So if you're thinking like a business person, you want it to be the cheapest. So a lot of times, they just go take over a place that has whatever they need for their factory. The second thing is, if you're a capitalist, you're always looking for more ways to make money. So you're always needing new people you can sell things to. So if you start a colony, you can make it a rule that they have to buy things from you. So it provides a place to sell the things that are being produced by the Industrial Revolution. A third reason for imperialism, and we see the French and the British do this, is sometimes it gives you a military advantage. So if you control land in Asia, but you are in France, you have to sail around Africa. Maybe you want control of somewhere on the coast of Africa so your ships can stop, get repairs, maybe get some medical attention, whatever you might need on your trip, maybe more supplies. Or you might want to have a place that can provide some military support when you need it. And then the fourth reason, these are all sort of a combination. The idea at the time was called social Darwinism. It was the idea that it's okay for you to take over because, according to nature, the fittest animals should take over. So, Britain, for example, is going to argue, obviously, we are fitter because we have more technology, we have the Industrial Revolution, and we have a bigger military, and we have more advanced medicine. Therefore, we are better, and it's okay for us to take over these smaller, poorer, less developed countries. But it's all tied to racism and nationalism, which we've also talked about a lot. Okay, so if you look at Africa there, Africa before the Europeans start taking over, all that brown stuff was controlled by Africans. So, the African groups that were in control. You have tons of different ethnic groups. Not all Africans are the same. Africa is a humongous continent. When the Europeans showed up, there were thousands of different languages they spoke, and most of them would have been different tribes. So these Africans do not think of themselves as the same. When you have a situation like this, it's what happened in America, and it's similar to what we studied in Ireland, where you have different groups that are not, they don't see themselves as the same. It's actually easier to go take them over because they are not putting up one united opposition to you. You can just take them out one at a time. Now, why did all this wait to happen until the 1800s? Because like in America, it started in the 1400s. So what was different here? So there's a few things that you are supposed to keep in mind. One, Africa has these big, huge rivers, which are hard to navigate. They are particularly hard to travel upstream against the current until the steam engine gets put on those ships. So not only is it used for the Industrial Revolution, it is now easier to go to Africa. Before, you couldn't get into the middle of Africa. The steamship's going to let you do that because you can sail up these big, nice rivers now. The second thing is the discovery of quinine in the early 1800s to treat people with malaria. So malaria is a disease you get from mosquitoes. It was super, super common in Africa. Africa, before quinine is discovered, was known as the white man's grave because these Europeans would go, they'd get bit by mosquitoes, and then they would get malaria, and they'd die. So what they end up doing is they just give people quinine. It actually leads to the invention of a bunch of cocktails, the most famous of which is the English drink, gin and tonic. Quinine doesn't taste good, but there is quinine in tonic water, so they would mix it, make a mixed drink out of it, and then it killed the taste of the medicine, and people would be willing to drink this medicine, and it would keep them from getting malaria, and then let them take over Africa. And all the different countries had different drinks, but they all had one, so that the people would take the medicine. So once they have that medicine, it's easier to take over. And then the third thing is, in 1884, we're going to have the automatic machine gun. All the Europeans are going to buy them and use them in Africa, where the natives are using spears and bows and arrows. So that is a huge advantage. It's going to lead to fighting. So, and we will look more specifically at that in a second. But what they do is, instead of fighting, all the Europeans sit down in the Berlin Conference, and they literally take the map and divide it up and agree, this goes to you, this goes to us, and we won't argue about it anymore. No fighting. We all just get rich. Only problem is, there's no Africans drawing that map. So the boundaries do not match the tribal boundaries, which is actually going to lead to upset Africans. And it will make some fighting. For example, in the Congo, we have the Dutch King Leopold shows up, and at first he is signing treaties with these local tribes that give the Belgians control of the land. And he says, the reason we are here in Africa is to end slavery, which is bad, and also spread Christianity, which we think will prevent slavery from recurring. Which is all nice, except they were treating these Africans horribly, and they end up having 10 million people die from it. The real reason the Belgians were there is they wanted the sap from the rubber trees to make rubber, to make all the things that they have created during the Industrial Revolution. Once this news gets out, all the other Europeans are horrified, but they also learn, oh wait, we would like to make money in Africa too, and it's going to lead to other other Europeans coming to take over pieces of Africa. Keep in mind, the Congo is 80 times bigger than Belgium, so the resources there are just amazing to these European people. And it's going to lead us to South Africa, where first the Dutch are going to go down there and start having settlements, and they are going to be called Boers because the Dutch word for farmer is Boer. So they're creating these farms, and they're making lots of money, and everything's great. Unfortunately, in the center of Africa, there is this tribe called the Zulu. They have this amazing leader called Shaka, and they are going to all unite, have this big, powerful African country with an amazing military. And the Boers are going to get taken over by the British. The British make all these new laws. The Boers don't like the laws, so they're going to leave the British lands and go into what is now Zulu lands. The Zulus don't want these Europeans there, so the Zulus go to war with the Boers. Meanwhile, all these other Europeans are coming in. The Boers don't want these other Europeans, so the Boers and the new Europeans are going to fight, and they blame it all on the British for making those rules they didn't like when they took over where the Boers had lived. And it's going to lead to the Boer War. So the British are going to defeat the Zulus, but barely. Then the Dutch are going to declare war on the British right after that. The British are going to beat the Dutch, and when they win that war, called the Boer War, they're going to unite all of the Dutch land and all the British land into one gigantic European country called the Union of South Africa, which is still there today. And it's going to be run by white Europeans. So, there were some positive contributions here, but almost all of it's negative. We get millions of Africans die. They steal all their resources, including diamonds and gold and other natural resources. They're dividing up boundaries based on the Europeans and not on the people who live there, and it's just going to be a disaster. Now, the nice things that get left behind. They have more advanced healthcare that the Europeans bring. They're going to actually set up economies, because the Africans did not know Europeans wanted these things this badly till they attacked. And they're going to build particularly railroads. There's going to be railroads that go across the whole continent, which eventually will be a nice thing for the Africans. And the education rate and literacy rate is going to go up a ton in Africa. The way it happened was awful. This is the way that the course is designed to call them positive effects. But, now, this is, in many historians' opinions, this stuff right here leads to all of the problems we have in the world today, including that big gap we talked about in income that comes from capitalism. So, next time, we are going to talk about one little teeny piece of Africa in Egypt, and then Asia. If you have any questions, please see me. I know I move fast. If it was too fast, just pause or rewind and make sure you got what you need.